Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. UCLA heading on the road to play Nebraska. Now, UCLA coming off a bye. And what I'll say about UCLA is this is a team that's getting better over the 2024 year. That should excite UCLA fans where, look, we kind of knew this roster heading into 2024 from a pure talent standpoint wasn't ready to compete at the highest level of the Big Ten. But I think one thing that you can take a lot of optimism with is Deshaun Foster, this new UCLA coaching staff. They seem to be developing players, and I think that's what matters the most. And we kind of know what Deshaun Foster can bring on the recruiting trail. Like once he gets the talent within this program, I think this program could go in the right direction. Now you look at Nebraska, really impressive game against Ohio State, a game that you kind of could have won on the road against one of the better teams in the country, specifically that Nebraska defense that gave up two explosive plays in the passing attack. Other than that, was absolute nails on Saturday. Got a couple takes about this Nebraska offense that I want to get off my chest and kind of how Nebraska can attack UCLA. Excited to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, UCLA fans, Nebraska fans, let it fly in the comments section. That is by far the best part about doing this is hearing from you guys in the comments section. The amount of support has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to start with this Nebraska offense going up against the UCLA defense that is very good against the run. This is probably what has frustrated me the most with this Nebraska offense is the lack of ability to run the football. We thought this would arguably be a strength of this Nebraska offense heading into 2024. I think Matt Rhule certainly wanted it to be a strength when you have a true freshman quarterback starting and running the offense. This is my take, and I would like to hear from the Nebraska fans in the comment section. This is from me looking at the numbers, obviously watching these football games. I think the struggles with the rushing attack have a lot more to do with the running backs than they do the offensive line, which is something we're normally not used to saying. Normally, when a team struggles to run the football, it kind of falls on the offensive line, not moving bodies around enough, as opposed to the running backs not running hard enough. Not saying the Nebraska running backs don't run hard. I don't think there's many running backs in the country that run harder than Dante Dowdle, but you start looking at the numbers and then you watch the games and say it seems like these Nebraska running backs, they're leaving a lot of plays and a lot of yards on the football field. And it kind of bears out with the numbers where you look at Dante Dowdle, who has almost 100 carries on the season. He's only forced 12 missed tackles forced. That's not a very good number. You look at Emmett Johnson, only 10 missed tackles forced. Ramir Johnson, 7 missed tackles forced. I feel like these running backs are sometimes getting to the second level and not really making people miss. And I understand you're not going to make somebody miss every single time, but it doesn't seem like Nebraska in these running backs are ever like if they're blocked for 5, they're getting 5. They're not turning that into a 15-yard chunk play. And so that I think has been the struggles with this Nebraska offense, specifically in the rushing attack, because you kind of watch the film and say, I think the offensive line is doing some good things. I think the running backs need to run the football a little bit better. Now you look at the passing attack, and this is probably where you want to attack UCLA. Again, UCLA very good against the run, 3.5 yards per carry allowed. That's top 20 in the country. In the secondary, allowing almost a 70% completion percentage. That's 128th. Can Dillon have a bounce back game? And I'm not saying Dillon played bad against a very good Ohio State defense, but you can tell he's left some throws on the football field. And I think more importantly, it felt like Coach Satterfield had the training wheels on a little bit against Ohio State. And at the end of the day, you can't beat a team like Ohio State putting the training wheels on your Nebraska offense. Dillon, you brought Dillon in to be a difference maker, a guy that can elevate the offense. And I feel like they didn't really give him a chance all that often to do that on Saturday. And I thought the boundary wide receivers were winning. I thought there should have been some more pass interference calls in that game. I look at this Nebraska offense, I look at the skill set of Dillon and say, this kid pushes the ball down the field just about as good as any quarterback in the country. Continue to allow him to do that. The average depth of target on Saturday was only 7.5 yards down the field. They're trying to work some of this perimeter screen game stuff, but I mean, it's been a massive problem. These Nebraska wide receivers are not blocking good enough on the perimeter. It's not really worked, but they seem like they continue to want to go to it. And I know Ohio State was heating Dillon up, so they wanted the ball out quick. Look, you brought this kid in to be a difference maker. Go let him be a difference maker and die on the sword. Like, okay, Dillon doesn't play good, doesn't make some throws. That's how you should lose games. You shouldn't lose games because you're being too scared with the true freshman quarterback who has shown that he is not playing like a true freshman. So I'd like to see Nebraska ask for Dillon to do a little bit more and get aggressive pushing the ball down the field. That's when Dillon's at his best. Now you flip the sides here. The two big storylines, UCLA. Ethan Garbers had a real. You've seen this UCLA team play better, specifically on the offensive side of the football. Had a really good game against Rutgers going into the bye week. Look, we all know Ethan Garbers, former four-star quarterback. The kid has talent. Can he consistently start putting it together? Can he translate that performance against Rutgers and translate it on the road in Lincoln, Nebraska? That's probably what you're looking at. I think the real problem with this UCLA offense is you ain't running the football all that well. Actually, you're running the football very poorly, right? You're only running the football 42% of the time. That's 121st in the country for only 2.5 yards per carry. That's 133rd. Now, it's hard to see this UCLA rushing attack getting going against the Nebraska defense that just held Ohio State to under 70 rushing yards, 2.5 yards per carry. So I think UCLA is going to have to rely on Ethan Garbers to push the ball down the field and win this game. My big question here is, can they protect Ethan Garbers? You look at UCLA, they struggle in pass protection, giving up a sack on 8.1% of dropbacks. And what the numbers say is they're struggling on the inside of the offensive line, which is a tough matchup because you look at Nebraska and say, Ty Robinson, Nash, that is probably the strength of this Nebraska defense. So the thing I'm going to be looking at is the matchup between the interior offensive linemen going up against some of the better interior defensive linemen that we see in this conference. Can UCLA hold up and keep Ethan Garbers clean? When Ethan Garbers has been clean, he's thrown some really nice footballs. That's going to be the storyline here. And again, when you can't run the football and you struggle in pass protection, that kind of results in a UCLA offense that has been rather inconsistent to start 2024. Now, this passing attack is it's kind of unique. It goes through the running backs and the tight ends, right? So you look at the leading pass catchers for this UCLA team. The top two guys are running backs and tight ends. I believe there's another running back that's number 4 on the team. They got some boundary ride receivers who can do some things. Rico Flores has flashed and a couple other names, but we kind of know where this UCLA team, they want to get the ball out quick. They want to get the ball out to their playmakers in space. If you're Nebraska, these safeties, these linebackers, they're going to have to be dialed in, specifically over the middle of the field and in the flat. That's the storyline in this game. I don't see UCLA running the football in Nebraska all that much, and it's hard to see UCLA pushing the ball down the field against Nebraska because I have question marks about holding up in pass protection, especially when you're getting that pressure on the inside of the offensive line where the quarterback can't really step up into the pocket. Can UCLA get the playmakers in space and force Nebraska to tackle in space? That's probably what you're looking at here. Nebraska's been rushing the passer really well. This is kind of how that defense, in my mind, has taken that next step. They're forcing some more turnovers, but they're also getting after the passer, not having to bring too much pressure while doing it. I think Willis McGahee, true freshman, he's starting to flash. I would argue that I would like to see a little bit more of him rushing the passer off the edge for Nebraska. Getting into the pick here, to me, UCLA, obviously, it's a tough travel game, but it's also a tough matchup game. You know, UCLA struggled to run the football, probably not going to run the football all that well against Nebraska. But I think more importantly, if you're going to lean on Ethan Garbers on the road, the crowd is going to be loud. The snap count's going to be hard to hear. With how good Nebraska's rushing the passer, I feel like Nebraska is going to be able to create a lot of negative plays and really lean on this Nebraska defense in this matchup at home. Give me Nebraska to cover the 7 points. Again, I think this UCLA team is moving in the right direction. I just don't think they have the talent yet to compete at the highest level of the Big Ten. If Nebraska plays their best football, I think they win this game. I'm going to take Nebraska to do so. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.